Hello, and welcome back to Cass Loves Tech. In today's video, we are going to be spending some time going over how to send follow-up emails to clients utilizing Lawcus. And in this example, we are actually going to strictly focus on automations and workflows and how to create the proper workflow to be able to follow up with a client on honestly anything. To keep it specific though, I am going to paint the scenario. And today we have a person that just retained us for services about 2 weeks ago, and they have yet to complete their intake form. Now, typically in a situation like this, for a firm that I currently support, I would have ensured that follow-up emails are set up in place through automations and workflows, so that way the client is notified at least 4 days after they've retained us that the intake form still needs to be completed, and we send them a friendly reminder. In this instance though, that did not happen for today's example. This is a pretend case, and I am going to now walk through the steps on how to go ahead and create a follow-up email sequence workflow utilizing Lawcus. So let's go ahead and kick it off and jump right into it. All right, so as you already know, in order to go ahead and kick things off, we need to be inside of Lawcus. And once we're inside of Lawcus, we need to be in automations and workflows. Now from here, we would go ahead and add workflow, and we're gonna need to label our workflow. So I'm just gonna go ahead and label it client intake form follow-up. This trigger is going to be set up by the matter being converted. So once the matter is created, then we'll have this triggered, and it needs to be in pipeline. I'm just going to select one, and I'm also going to select a stage, just a random stage, because for this particular example, it's not necessarily my setup that matters. It's for you to understand that this would be what you would do in order to create a follow-up sequence emails to a client. Okay, so from here you would make sure that you select the trigger type, which the trigger type would need to be matter created, because that's usually when we would send an intake form to the client for a matter specific type of service. So you would do the same thing, set up the trigger, and the trigger that you set up would be matter created and is triggered by anyone who would initiate this workflow automation. Hit continue. You're going to pick whatever pipeline is applicable to you. You're going to pick whatever stage is applicable to your scenario, and then hit continue. From here, we need to select an action. And once the matter is converted, so for this, we're going to send an email, and from whoever we want it to be. So for this example, I'm going to choose the same one that I always choose, and it's going to be hello, and the recipient is going to be from the matter value trigger, matter name. Now, once you have the matter name, you would then go ahead and start crafting the email. So this is going to be the first one that I send out. So I am going to put this together for us here. Now this is the email, and this is the first one in the sequence. So we're going to go ahead and hit save. From here, we are going to add a task, because we want to put someone on notice that they need to be on the lookout for this intake form. So the matter ID is from the matter value trigger. The start date I typically like to do from trigger, so based on the The start date would just be one day after the trigger date, which the trigger date is the date that the previous communication was sent out, and the due date is going to be for, we're going to give the client 3 days, so it's going to be 3 days after. And then um, once this is put together, we can then assign it to whoever we want. So for this example, I'm just going to assign it to someone within the organization, and then we're going to hit save. This will allow someone within the company to ensure that they go to check whether the intake form was completed. If the intake form still was not completed, then we are now going to be doing something different. And at this point, we can start working with logic conditions. And we can have it be so that if the field for the intake form is checked off, then we know that this email doesn't need to continue. But if it's not checked off, then we know this email sequence needs to continue. So what I'm going to use to set this up is tags. So what we're going to do now is, if there is an intake form completed, once the tag is selected that the intake form is completed, this automation ends. And we just need to notify whoever within the firm is working on this file. We can send them an email or a text message. I'm just going to do email, and we can notify them that the person complete the intake form. Or we don't do it as an email. We can even do it as a system alert. So the attorney or the paralegal or whatever personnel staff is going to be working on this, or even yourself, we can have it add a reminder to begin reviewing the intake form to do whatever is necessary to come next. So what we can do is make it 1 business day and select done. We're going to make the reminder be for 2 days after the tag is applied. For this, I'm going to make it this person. And from, we're going to make it from hello. And we're going to say intake form completed. We can even do more than this. We can say the person's name completed their intake form. So we can say matter name, and we can say that they completed So this would be what I would do in the instance that you are lucky enough to have the client complete the intake form after sending out the first reminder email. Okay, so after the first reminder email is sent out, the client decides to complete the intake form. A member of the organization, whether it's a paralegal, legal assistant, or a runner or office manager, whoever you have working in your account, or maybe it's yourself, have a task added to double check whether that intake form is completed and have it due 3 days after we send the email out. Once that happens, what we can even do here is that we can add a subtask. We can have the subtask be to add a tag to the matter file once intake form completed. And we can specify the tag. We can say add intake form completed tag to the matter file once the intake form is completed, and we get assigned it to the same person that we assigned the other one to. And this was signed to the Simpson & Associates, so this one is also going to be signed to Simpson & Associates as well. So once all of this is on here, we can now move on. So we can just hit continue to next, and it's bringing us back here to this condition, which we've already done it, and we can now move on. If we wanted to add a branch, we could, but this takes care of itself. So tag contains intake form completed. A reminder is sent to a member of the firm to let them know that they need to review the intake form. Now we're brought to the other side where a tag is added, but a different kind of tag is going to be added. So for this one, we're going to do add, and we're going to also pick the tag down here, and we're also going to say it contains, and it needs to contain intake form pending. Okay, it needs to contain intake form pending. Now, if we're sending a reminder to the person to remind them to complete their intake form. Once this tag is added that the intake form is still pending, now we can add a second subtask, and this one could be different. And we can have this one say to add intake form pending tag to the matter if we have not received the intake form from the client by the due date. And it's going to be assigned to the same person. Unless you had someone else unless your company split into departments and you had someone different working on a different part of this. So from here, we would hit continue. One quick thing I want to make sure that I emphasize to you is to be very careful with the type of tag that you use for this step, because it's not going to be the tag from step 2. It's actually going to be the matter tag. And then we can do matter tag intake form completed, and that will set this up. So if the task up here, number 3, is to put the tag on it, you want to make sure that the tag that's being referenced here is appropriate so that the triggers that follow after it are able to be carried out. So I fixed the one here so that it shows the matter tag, and this one also needs to be adjusted too, and this one should also be the matter tag. So you want to make sure that you have the matter tag, and you want to make sure that whether it's pending or complete, you pick it up from the right spot. So it's not going to be a tag from a previous step. It's instead going to be a tag associated with the matter. The reason why this is important is because when you are actually going to have the team member apply the tag, if the tag is not listed in the right space, there's no way that they're going to be able to complete that, right? So we want to make sure that we're doing this properly. So now that I've said that, we're going to go ahead and continue into the rest of the video. I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out really quickly. I updated this piece here, which is the add a task piece, because I want to make sure that whether a client completes the intake form or doesn't, a tag is added. If the tag is added that they did complete the intake form, then they'll be over here in branch A. If they did not complete the intake form, then they'll be in branch B because it would still be pending. Now, we would give it a small period of time. And for this, I would probably give it 2 days. And from here, once we've waited 2 days, we'll then have a task added, have a task added to have that same team member go into the system to confirm if we still have or have not received the intake form. So here we put, have we received intake form? So I'm just going to make it do -1 day. And then it's going to be assigned to whoever you want. We've established that by now. And we can add a second user if we wanted to. From here, we're going to say, have we received the intake form? If we have received the intake form, mark the tag completed. Now, if at this point they haven't done that, then we are going to send a second email to the person. I think that only 2 emails are sufficient for something like this. If by the second one we haven't received the intake form, then we will call the client. This would be the second email that gets sent out. By this point, they should be completing this intake form. After this, we just add another task to monitor this account to ensure that the intake form is completed. So lead, we're going to put in that information, monitor completion. And I'm going to go ahead and craft this task, and then I'll show you what it looks like right after. so I added the task and the subtask. I've assigned it to the members within the organization already. And for the due date, I'm just going to add for this to be due 2 days after the trigger, so that we can get in front of this intake form, because depending on the matter and the nature of the practice area, there may be deadlines looming, anticipating this intake form being completed. So I am going to go ahead and save this here, and this would realistically be the way that you would go about setting up a new lead follow-up strictly for an intake form needing to be completed by the client. And just to make sure that everything gets saved, I'm just going to go ahead and hit update so it saves. So this would be the full process that you would go about in order to ensure that you are following up with your client. Because this was a intake form follow-up email sequence, that's the reason why I added in some tasks, because that's the only way for the system to be able to determine whether or not an intake form has been completed. Now, if there is a question that you have, or maybe you were thinking of something a little bit different, or you were wondering like if you could do something just slightly different to be able to send this email out to someone, or to be able to set up this sequence set of emails for your organization or for yourself, please feel free to definitely get in touch with me, and I have no problems with unpacking the reasons why certain things and give you any insight or pointers that you could benefit from to create an automation workflow for your organization. I hope that you were able to find this video helpful. I hope that you were able to follow along with me just fine. I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to know what you're thinking and how you're feeling after this video. Please feel free to leave a comment below or get in touch with me via email if you would like to see a specific video created. If you haven't already, definitely feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel so that you will be kept in the loop on future videos that are posted, and you will be notified of any different things that we are doing here at Cass Loves Tech. So until the next video, I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope you found this video super duper helpful.